Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to NFL Thoughts. And apparently, the word was set in, I believe Tuesday, um, that the Pro Bowl selections were announced on Tuesday. But I had no clue about knowing about it. Somehow, some way, I had to find out from a late notification on my Google News. Cowboys had seven Pro Bowlers. Um, well, actually, it also showed that the Eagles have 8 Pro Bowlers, which is the most in the NFL. 8 Pro Bowlers on a team. And I just want to go over these 7 Pro Bowlers for the Dallas Cowboys and how I feel about them. Let's start off with Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons, without a doubt, probably the best player out of this, bunch who's going to the Pro Bowl. I'm just very disappointed by how he's played as of late. It seems like ever since the Giants game, where he got 2 sacks, in that game, he showed up fashionably late, but he took care of business. It seems like since that game, he can't seem to really get much of anything. Now, he did get a sack against Jacksonville, but I mean, it's just crazy to me how we've got 3 games that have, 3 dominoes that have fell, and Micah Parsons has only managed to get 1 sack total in these 3 games. I'm gonna need that to change in these final 3 games. It felt like we were getting somewhere when he got a sack in the first quarter, and it's like, okay, he's about to go off. That was the only production he had for the rest of the game. Nonetheless, he's a great player. Nonetheless, I can't take anything away from him. He's a great player. He's a beast. And the beast must go after his prey on Saturday. So, me personally, I think that what has happened to Micah is that we're literally we strictly have him as a pass rusher, and because of his lack of size for being a pass rusher going up against these offensive linemen, it's wearing him down a little bit. So I think my best bet is we should go back to doing what we were doing last season Micah's rookie year, where we were moving him around everywhere. We were putting him in pass coverage. We were putting him in the linebacker box, most of the time rushing the quarterback inside up the middle. And we were doing all this stuff, putting him here, putting him there, and it kept him fresh. It kept him fresh, and we didn't have to worry about him, wearing down, near the end of the season, because we weren't having him strictly as a pass rusher. And this was my biggest problem. Something that I was talking about back on my other channel, MojoTube, where guys like Skip Bayless was talking about how, I need Micah to be a pass rusher. I need him to be coming off the edge every play as strictly a pass rusher, because that's where he's at his best. Yes, Skip, we know that, but you see what has happened. It's like, at the start of the season, it's like, okay, maybe Skip was right. Maybe he was right, because Micah had 7 sacks through the first 7 games of the season. And it looked like he was running away with Defensive Player of the Year. But things have quieted down since those first 7 games. After having 8 sacks through the first 7 games of the season, he's only managed to get 5 sacks in the last 7 games. And it's like, maybe I knew what I was talking about. For once, I knew what I was talking about when I said that I think that making Micah Parsons strictly a pass rusher, having him rush off the edge against big old offensive linemen, maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe we should keep on doing what we were doing in his rookie year, which was moving him around everywhere. And I was right. I knew what I was talking about, because you saw last year in his rookie campaign when we were moving him around everywhere, that's where he was at his best because we kept him fresh. Now that we're strictly only having him go up against these offensive tackles coming off the edge every single play, you're talking about guys that are bigger and more agile than those guards and centers inside. And Micah's going up against that all game, which is a reason why he's been dealing with injuries this year compared to last year, where last year he was very healthy and it was put on display. This year he's been going through injuries, and the lion has not been going after his prey the same way that he was in the first half of the season, because he's tired. He's getting worn down because we're doing, Skip, you got your wish, but guess what? Now it's having him deteriorated. It has him deteriorated. I don't know if I'm saying that word right, but nonetheless, yeah, he's getting worn down. All right, and I think it's safe to say, Dan Quinn, you need to go back to moving him around again. Go back to doing what you were doing his rookie season. Okay, yes, we know what his strong suit is. We know he's at his best when being a pass rusher. But guess what? You can use him in other ways. Understand that, okay, yeah, he's a jack of all trades. He's a master of none. Well, Micah is a master of one. Something that I feel like we're doing too much with him with. I feel like we need to move him around and have him do other different things, because that makes him fresh. When he's not just straight up rushing the quarterback off the edge every single time against those big old offensive linemen, that's what's wearing him down as of late. So I think that, me personally, we should go a different route and go back to doing, not go a different route, but go back to the route that we were doing last year, is basically what I'm trying to say. Golly, I was talking about that for way too long. It was supposed to be like maybe a couple minutes about Micah, and then we turned it into a freaking dialogue. Nonetheless, yeah, so, Micah is still a beast, but I think the beast needs to be adjusted a little bit. Even beasts can get tired and worn down sometimes if you're not using them in the correct way. Nonetheless, and now let's talk about CeeDee Lamb. All y'all people, well, maybe not y'all, I don't know. There's not very many people who watch these videos. But nonetheless, a lot of people were talking down about my boy CeeDee Lamb. Talking about how he's not a number one receiver. Amari Cooper was the reason why he was doing what he was doing, because he was taking all the attention. Well, now you see he's the one getting all that attention. And guess what? He's still having a Pro Bowl season. Now it's official. that he's a Pro Bowl lock. Now that we know that about, him. He's had a great year. Um, and I don't think the stats, tell the whole story. It's the fact that he was even getting some production and was in the top 10 receiving yards when Cooper Rush was throwing him the ball, and that's pretty impressive. Now, of course, he wasn't getting 100-yard games until Dak Prescott came back, but that's not a coincidence. We know Dak Prescott is going to make CeeDee Lamb a better receiver than when Cooper Rush is out there throwing him the ball. Nonetheless, I think for this Cowboy offense to really be consistent and really be able to get over the top, get over the hump, I think we should give the ball to CeeDee more. I think Dak gives the ball to Noah Brown and stuff a little too much. I think you need to go to your best guy. You need to go to your one, CeeDee Lamb, because it don't matter whether they're playing man, zone, double teaming him. It seems like he's getting open nonetheless. It don't matter what they do. He's going to get open, and he's going to come down with the great catch. So I think that we should, force feed the ball to CeeDee Lamb a little bit more, and stop giving the ball to reject receivers like Noah Brown all the time, especially in critical key situations in the game. Nonetheless, so I got nothing else to say. I got nothing else to say. You see Amari Cooper, what he's doing out there in Cleveland. Well, don't get me wrong. Cleveland is a more run-oriented offense than the Dallas Cowboys were when he was here. But, that's neither here nor there. But he's definitely not having the same type of production right now in Cleveland that he did when he was with us. I said that Amari Cooper is not going to be the same in Cleveland without Dak Prescott. And you see what CeeDee Lamb is doing. Without Amari Cooper, he's still being very productive. Matter of fact, he's on pace. We keep this up, and if we do what I want us to do, which is give him the ball more, he's on pace to get 100 catches. So we'll just see how this plays out. As far as what y'all were talking about, criticizing my number one receiver. But I promise you, he's going to be a part of that 88 club, historic Cowboy receivers who wore 88. And I promise you that that's going to happen. And now let's talk about Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, explosive. He gives us the big play. Sometimes I don't like when we're giving him the ball so many times. He carried the ball 19 times on Sunday, and he averaged 3.9 yards a carry. You know what that means? That means basically on average, he's getting tackled by those linebackers and those defensive linemen. That's what it means. And he's taking a pounding that I don't recommend him taking. So cut down the touches just a tad bit, all right? Because we can't risk pounding this dude into the dirt a little too much that he might be a little banged up going into the playoffs. So let Zeke take that pounding, because he's more than capable of being able to take that pounding. But nonetheless, we all know what Tony Pollard's done. And the Cowboys, this is his last year of his contract. If not, we re-sign him to an extension next year. The Cowboys are definitely making they are absolutely making the most of Tony Pollard's final season of his contract. We are giving him the ball any opportunity we can, for the most part. And, it's shown. Our offense is pretty dang good. And the touches have only been getting bigger since the second half of the season, and our offense has been more explosive and has been scoring more points. So it's not all Dak Prescott. It's also the fact that Tony Pollard has switched into a different gear in the second half of the season. It started with that game against the LA Rams, to be quite honest with you. It started with the game against the Rams, but it didn't fully start happening until that game against the Chicago Bears, where we really saw what he's capable of to this offense as far as explosiveness. So we already know these three that I've been talking about so far, we already knew they were a deadlock to be Pro Bowlers. So now that we're done with the offense, let's talk about the defense. Oh, wait, no. I talk about Micah. Yeah. Zack Martin. Zack Martin's going to be Zack Martin at the end of the day. What is this? His 8th time making the Pro Bowl? He's got more Pro Bowls than holding penalties in his career. And that is very impressive. That means you're not hearing his name being called, or his number technically being called. They don't call them by the names, they call them by the number. But nonetheless, he is very key to our team in this offensive line. The best thing that ever happened to us was Jerry Jones drafting Zack Martin over Johnny Manziel, because he's been great for us. With that being said, now let's get to other defensive players. D-Law made the Pro Bowl. D-Law made the Pro Bowl. And this is his first Pro Bowl in 4 years. And it's more of that they're getting him to the Pro Bowl because they know that he's more capable for more than just being a pass rusher. We know he can be a pass rusher, but it's more than that. It's his run-stopping ability. And that's what they're finally paying attention to the most, and which is why he's in the Pro Bowl. Now, what's another player on the defense that's making the Pro Bowl? Trevon Diggs. Another player that y'all wanted to criticize, say that, he gets beat a lot. Well, how many times has he been getting beat this year, huh? How many times has he been getting beat this year? All right, I can only recall Mike Evans and Alec Pierce being the only guys that beat him this year. The only times that he's given up a touchdown. But that Cooper Kupp thing, okay, I'll be quite honest with you. Cooper Kupp just caught that ball short, and then he turned upfield and he went the distance. That technically wasn't a touchdown given up by Trevon Diggs. It's when you give up literally a touchdown down the field. That was a little knick-knack, paddywhack completion that Cooper Kupp turned into a big play for the Rams. So that technically was not a touchdown given up by Trevon. So, yeah, Trevon made the Pro Bowl for a very good reason. He's above arguably the shutdown corner of the league. He just shut downs everybody that he goes up against. Remember when Jamar Chase was talking smack and saying all the stuff that he was saying? Yeah, when he was going up against Trevon Diggs earlier this year in week 2, he caught one pass for 6 yards. Now let that settle. When he went up against A.J. Brown, 2 catches, 24 yards. When you look at all these number 1 receivers, including Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, all these number 1 receivers, when they go off against everybody else, it seems like when they go up against Trevon Diggs, they're nowhere to be found. What did you do? Oh, right. You caught 2 passes today. Right, right. Anyway, with that being said, um, yeah. So Trevon made the Pro Bowl, and now let's talk about the last. And I'm not, and not the in. Okay, maybe the least, but Kavontae Turpin. Listen, Kavontae Turpin has not brung one back to the house yet, and he's been kind of disappointing, to me. I'm not going to lie. He's been kind of disappointing. But what the NFL is looking at and why they made him go to the Pro Bowl, which I understand fully, um, is that he's been getting a lot of touchbacks and kicks and punts being kicked out of bounds because they're scared to give him an opportunity. And when he does get an opportunity, a few times this year, he's actually made some exciting returns. So yeah, I would say that he has been very disappointing this year. But, hey, he's one of the best returners in terms of average yards per kickoff return and punt return in the NFL. He's by far the best in the NFC East in the division, but I'm talking about NFL wise, he's actually been one of the best in return average. So, like I said, when he's actually been kicked the ball. So that's our 7th Pro Bowler. Now, are there any Pro Bowl snubs that I feel like we had on this team? I would say there were a couple. I would say maybe Ezekiel Elliott was one. I think if he didn't miss those 2 games due to his knee injury, I think he would have made the Pro Bowl as well because he really has had a really good year as well, and he missed 2 games due to injury, so that's why he didn't make the Pro Bowl. But another guy, I would say Donovan Wilson. Donovan Wilson has been very key to this defense and what he's been able to bring to the table. And if there was another I can think of, maybe Leighton Vander Esch. Leighton Vander Esch is by far, he might be the most underrated player on this defense. You can't say that Micah's underrated because we all know who he is and that he's a beast, and he goes out there and he plays like it. So he can't be underrated. But the most underrated player on this defense is Leighton Vander Esch. And you saw how big of an impact not having him on the field last week was. We gave up 192 yards rushing with him out of the lineup. So I think he might be another one that if I could think of some Pro Bowl snubs on this Cowboy team. Unfortunately, I can't say Dak. I don't think his numbers were good enough for me to want to say that he was a snub. So yeah, but with that being said, that has been my time. Like, subscribe, and this is NFL Thoughts out.